Thanks to Compound V, there are tons of Supes running around in The Boys. It's like the mutant boom that came around during the dusk of the last century. Some are famous members of the Seven, while others are independent and cause chaos while keeping an eye out for Billy Butcher and his crew. But you can be sure that nearly all of these Supes are messed up. Some have weird and obnoxious powers, while others use commonly known powers in messed up ways. Not the most upstanding citizens. The Boys' Supes are especially disturbing because of how far they're willing to go. And in this video, that's exactly what we're gonna explore. Here's our list of the 11 weirdest Supes powers in The Boys and Gen V TV series. Watch them all and leave your picks, suggestions, and additions at the end. Before we get into our explanation, we have a very small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to our channel. This is a small click for you, but for us it means a lot. Thank you. Let's begin. Emma Myers purging. Now, Emma's ability is basically size manipulation, but the way she does this is super crazy. Some would call it gross and obnoxious, but then again, that's what most of these Supes are, gross and obnoxious. So, Emma is like the Ant-Man of the Boys universe, but instead of using Pym particles, Miss Meyer does this through purging, which is basically emptying her stomach or throwing up. The more she wants to shrink, the more Emma pukes her guts out, so much so that she could grow as small as an ant. However, this may prove fatal for her because she often drains her energy because of the lack of food around her. You see, when Ant-Man shrinks, he maintains the strength of an adult human, so he does not feel exhausted. But Emma, on the other hand, she may fall unconscious or even die, which is what happened to her in Gen V. Apart from shrinking, she can even grow in size. From what Gen V tells us, she could grow as high as a 2-story building. In this form, she shows exceptional strength. How does she achieve this? Well, by doing the exact opposite of purging, by eating. So it seems that her size is dependent on the amount of food she consumes, or maybe the amount of consumable calories her body has. Having said that, her size also depends on her emotional state and how she's currently feeling. You see, when Sam scolds her in Gen V, she automatically shrinks, which goes on to tell that purging is a secondary facilitator for her change in size. So there you have it. Emma, the Supe who pukes. Okay, that's kind of an oversimplification, but you know what I mean. Geckos Regeneration. Gecko became a person of interest in Season 2 of The Boys. While his superpower is basically accelerated healing and regeneration, and I mean super accelerated regeneration, the way he uses it is what makes him weird. In Season 2, Annie January, aka Starlight, finds out from Huey that Gecko might get her the info she needs. Annie had known Gecko since childhood, but the two drifted apart. She starts to follow him, only to learn that much like other Supes, Gecko was using his powers to make money, and in a manner that shocks Annie. She tracks him down to a hotel room, where he goes in with another man. It initially seemed that Gecko was gonna sell his body, but with Supes, you can't expect anything to be usual. Gecko lays out his arm on the table, while the other man strikes at it multiple times with a machete, chopping it off. Once that was done, the arm grows back almost as quickly as it was severed. But Gecko doesn't stop here. Wanting more money, he offers the S&M client a deal. Chop off the penis for $1,000. The man asked Gecko where the nearest cash point was, which only means that the deal went through. When Season 2 was released, it was one of the scenes that cringed and grossed out people the most, and for all the right reasons. I believe it's stuff like this that makes The Boys what it is, an amazing show that'll leave you wishing you didn't watch it.
Remember Melissa Dabrowski, the kindergarten teacher you...
The Deep skills. Now, when the first season of The Boys was released, people loathed the Deep for what he did to Starlight. How he made her believe that he was the second in command after Homelander, and forced her to go down on her knees for him. Starlight later brings it to light, and he's sent on a sabbatical. But the dude was not remorseful about what he'd done. He was just sad that he wasn't part of the Seven any longer. Later, he goes on to be unceremoniously inducted into a cult. He even eats his friend Octopus, who kept begging him for his life. So there's plenty things about the Deep that make him a terrible person. But the one thing that visually grossed people out was the gills on his chest. Some people find it pretty disturbing to look at. I mean, the way the gills slither and sizzle, it's really hard to forget the sight. Unfortunately for the Deep, if you happen to stick your fingers in his gills, it hurts him beyond measure. Marie Moreau. Marie has a knack for controlling blood. While that's not really weird as a superpower, the way it looks on screen is not really soothing to the eyes. She can use her own blood, extending it from her palms like tendrils, or shaping it into simple forms like whips and floating blobs. These can grab stuff or attack. She can only do this if she cuts herself open, which is why she carries a switchblade to slice her hand when needed. It's a bit of a mystery if she feels any pain, or risks losing too much blood when she uses her power. She can also mess with other people's blood, even if they aren't wounded. She can force a bunch of blood into one part of their body body and make it explode. Just like Victoria Newman, she can blow up body parts with this trick. Marie made Kate's arm explode just by focusing. Unlike Victoria, she doesn't need to keep eye contact or get cloudy eyes to do her thing. She can also make blood itself explode, which she found out the hard way during a panic attack when she blew up her mom's blood. On the flip side, Marie can use her powers for good, like stopping blood flow from big wounds and preventing strokes. Marie has a strange ability to sense blood-related stuff. She noticed Sam Reardon had blood under his fingernails that wasn't his. She even predicted when Emma Meyer would get her period. Marie can tell if there are changes in blood, like when she sensed electronic trackers in herself and Jordan Lee. She could feel Kate Dunlap's pulse getting weaker. She could also detect Compound V in Victoria Newman's blood. By focusing, she saw and felt Maverick's blood.
Stop it. Penny.
Huey's naked teleportation. Awkward moment alert. Huey didn't have any powers for most of the boys. He was hesitant at first, but he decided to join Butcher to take down the Seven and Vought. In Season 3, fans finally saw him with superpowers, thanks to V24, a version of Compound V that gives powers for 24 hours. Huey got super strength, durability, speed, and teleportation. But his teleportation could only move organic stuff, so every time he teleported, he ended up naked. If someone teleported with him, they'd be naked too. This led to some awkward moments, but Huey didn't seem to mind. Not sure I can say the same about you.
I'm Tech Knight, and I won't stop searching until I've found...
Tech Knight. So Tech Knight in Gen V has this trick where he can tell if someone's lying by picking up on tiny body changes that most people can't see. He truly is the super ultimate lie detector, but even a human lie detector has his limits, especially when it comes to covering his own tracks. By the end of the episode, Knight said on TV that Golden Boy killed himself because of a mental breakdown, and that's how he clears Vought of any dirty play. That was a big twist for someone who's usually all about sniffing out the truth. So why did he do that? Well, when you're being blackmailed over your weird sexual tastes, you might bend the truth too. Right before his big TV moment, Dean Shetty pulled him aside in the woods and told him that she knew about the tumor in his brain that was messing with his sexual desires. She even showed some wild footage of him getting way too cozy with a vacuum cleaner, a skull, and, wait for it, a donut. Yep, the man who can spot a lie a mile away loves to stick his meat in everything that has a hole. While Gen V marks Tech Knight's TV debut, comic fans have been on the lookout for him since The Boys brought in the 80s superhero crew Payback in Season 3. In the comics, Knight has his own team and is more of a regular guy like Huey Campbell than a powerhouse like Homelander. Instead, he's kitted out in an Iron Man-like suit that lets him fly, shoot off EMPs, and launch weapons. The comic version of Tech Knight isn't far off from his TV persona though. However, the comic book Tech Knight is the closest a Supe can be to a superhero. He places others before himself, doesn't want to kill people needlessly, and is a good leader.
I'm just trying to get away from the voices. Hey, I'm gonna open my eyes.
Mindstorm. Mindstorm could peek into other people's minds, hear their thoughts, and dig through their memories for any info he wanted. Unlike Mesmer, who had to touch people to read their minds, Mindstorm could do it to anyone within 3 miles just by concentrating. But his bipolar disorder messed things up, which made it impossible for him to control his mind-reading powers. He ended up isolating himself because he couldn't stop hearing everyone's thoughts all the time. If Mindstorm made eye contact with someone, he could trap them in a psychic coma where they relived their worst memories in an endless nightmare. Soldier Boy said the only way out was for Mindstorm to let them go. If he didn't, or if he died, the person would stay in the coma until they died from the trauma. Mindstorm could control others' actions, memories, and perceptions by sending out telepathic brainwaves. Back when he was a stage performer in Vegas, he used to make volunteers do weird stuff for laughs. He stopped after one guy who he made believe he was a Spanish bull got hurt charging through a store window. Like the TNT twins, Mindstorm's power probably weakened over time. He couldn't control Soldier Boy or Huey Campbell, but he still managed to make a nun and a priest attack them when they let their guard down.
Yeah, just like that.
Harper. Harper is like Nightcrawler from Marvel, but better looking and without the ability to teleport. She can use her prehensile tail to do a number of things and has total control over it. It's not very strange, it just looks weird.
That will be all, Doppelganger.
Who though?
Doppelganger. In Seasons 1 and 2, Doppelganger showed up a lot. They could use shapeshift into anyone they wanted. They posed as Madeline Stillwell to cater to Homelander's weird fantasies, and turned into young, attractive women to blackmail Senator Calhoun on Stillwell's orders. One really creepy scene had Doppelganger turn into a clone of Homelander. It made Homelander realize he didn't need love from anyone else. So he killed Doppelganger, and decided they were no longer useful. Even though Doppelganger's death was gruesome, it doesn't excuse how they used their powers to manipulate others. Popclaw. Popclaw was A-Train's girlfriend and a minor villain in The Boys. She was once a big star, famous for her movies, but she hit rock bottom, turned to drugs, and was often caught by the paparazzi drunk and partying. A complete shit show, if you will. This is why A-Train kept their relationship a secret. Popclaw had retractable claws she could extend from her wrist for combat. This cool ability got her noticed as a teenager, but she never worked on her skills or grew as a superhero. So when Butcher and Mother's Milk broke into her place, she could hardly put up a fight. Ezekiel. Now, this guy kinda reminds me of the French cultist called Rael. You may know him from the recent Netflix documentary. Ezekiel's public image is that of a fundamental Christian preacher who promotes traditional values and condemns homosexuality. But in reality, he's a hypocrite who enjoys threesomes with men. Ezekiel is a minor character first seen when Butcher takes Huey to a club to hear A-Train's confession about not feeling sorry for accidentally killing Robin. There, Ezekiel is caught in scandalous acts with other men, and of course, he puts his superhuman stretching abilities to good use when doing what he's doing. This would be fine if he didn't publicly denounce homosexuality at the Capes for Christ event he led. Ezekiel charges thousands of dollars for meet and greets with Christian fans who believe in the values he preaches, but as you can see, behind closed doors he does exactly what he preaches against. So yeah, The Boys is filled with weird stuff like this, and man, we love the show. I guess it says something about us. And if you like our content, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to us if you haven't already. Have a good one and be safe. Thanks everyone!